Ladies and gentle gamers, welcome back to Be Determined. Today's video is going to be about pest farming and how to make money from it and what are the best methods, all of that stuff. So if you guys end up enjoying, please make sure to drop a like, smash the sub button if you haven't already. We just hit 18,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for making that happen. But now we're on our way to 19K, so if you're not subscribed, make sure to smash that sub button. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So before we really talk about the best way to do pest farming, we need to talk about the 3 different methods of farming that exist at the moment. First, there's the old way of farming, which is just put on pest repellent and ignore pests and just grind, which that method can still make pretty decent money. I think you can still get about 17 mil an hour with a pretty maxed out setup from melon farming. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna make the least amount of money. It's not gonna be like entertaining at all, but if you're wanting to semi AFK farming, that's a valid option. The only stat you need for that method is gonna be farming fortune, which I have another video talking about farming fortune. I made it a year ago, so it's slightly outdated, but I believe the only things that have been added to farming since then are like Zoro's cape, which is not valid most of the time, and paradots have been added since then. So do make sure to get paradots. I did talk down on Pesterminator in that video as well, but you can get Pesterminator now since pest repellents exist. Then on the opposite end of the farming money-making spectrum is doing only pests. Just grinding as much pest chance as you possibly can and just solely making money from pests, not really worrying too much about farming fortune while you're farming, only worrying about it when you're actually killing the pests. And then there's this sweet spot in the middle, which is what we're going to talk about today, where you do a little bit of manual grinding with a decent amount of fortune, but also go for a bit of bonus pest chance so you can get some money from that as well. So there's a few stats we need to talk about. 2 of them are in this menu and another one you don't actually see. But the first stat we'll talk about is the most important of the 2 that you can see: bonus pest chance. Bonus pest chance just gives you an extra chance to spawn more pests on your garden whenever you do spawn pests. I have seen people get this stat up to over 400 with some really crazy methods. The first strat is pretty easy, a pest hunter artifact. These are pretty cheap on the auction house now, or you can buy them from Pest Hunter Philip, and it gives you 60 bonus pest chance, which is really nice. There's also the wriggling larva, which if you eat 5 of these, each one of them gives 2 bonus pest chance, so you can get up to 10, and that's just added directly to your person. So you'll have this at all times, no matter what else you have in your inventory, in your accessory bag, or in your armor slot. You can also get bonus pest chance on your armor with the Pesterminator enchant. At the moment, Pesterminator 5 goes for about 15 to 18 million coins. And there's also the Beginner's Guide to Pest Hunting, which upgrades it to level 6. So if you want to get all the way up to Pesterminator 6 for each armor piece, it's going to cost you at least 30 million coins right now. You can also get bonus pest chance from the Slug Pet. The Slug Pet is by far the best pet to get bonus pest chance from. One of its perks just literally straight up grants bonus pest chance of 40 if you have it at level 100. But if you also put a brown bandana on it, then it gets extra bonus pest chance for every pest bestiary tier that you have unlocked. So if you have all of the pest tiers maxed except for, let's say, field mouse like I do, you can get 30 bonus pest chance, and if you do have field mouse maxed, you can get it up to 33. There's also the pest vest as well as the squeaky reforge for equipment. The pest vest by default has 10 bonus pest chance, and if you put the squeaky reforge on it when it's epic, it gives 1.5% more, but you can get even more than that if you recom it up to legendary and get 2 more. So it's a 0.5% difference, but if you're going to grind out this method, it might be worth it. You just kind of have to gauge that for yourself. There's also a potion that you can get from the pelt shop while Finnegan is in office. If he has the pelt apocalypse perk, it gives 20 bonus pest chance for an hour, but as you can see right now, they're pretty expensive. So once again, gonna have to gauge whether that's worth it or not for yourself. There's a few other things that give bonus pest chance, including the Pest Hunter's gloves. They give 5% bonus pest chance, and the biohazard armor also gives bonus pest chance. If you have Pesterminator 5 on each piece, while it's nighttime on the garden, it'll triple the Pesterminator perks, so you get 15 extra bonus pest chance if you have Pesterminator 5 on the armor set. So for this whole set altogether with Pesterminator 5, not even Pesterminator 6, you can get almost 80 bonus pest chance by using it. But you can see one of the other things I wanted to talk about here, which is the squeaky reforge that decreases the spawn cooldown of pests. Now this is actually the most important stat when it comes to pests. You want to be spawning as many as you possibly can, and there are a few ways that you can do that. Of course, the squeaky bonus does give 1% extra pest cooldown. The the Squeaky Pest Hunter's gloves have 1% extra pest cooldown by default, but more importantly, the Squeaky Pest vest, or the default pest vest, actually just gives 20 spawn cooldown. So 20% spawn cooldown is a pretty big deal. Normally pests will only spawn every 5 minutes, so having a 20% spawn cooldown decrease reduces that time by a whole minute. So you're always going to want to make sure you can get your hands on a pest vest. This is the most important piece of equipment, I would say, for pest farming. Now, another thing that gets overlooked a lot because it's not actually talked about that much on the wiki is the sprayinator. The sprayinator also grants 50% bonus pest chance when breaking crops in a sprayed plot. But that's not even the good part of it. Pests are 2 times more likely to spawn in sprayed plots. Now, you'd think that just mean after the cooldown's over, you're more likely to spawn pests, right? Well, it might also add into that, but it also reduces the cooldown of pest spawning. Basically, if you farm in a plot that has a spray on it, the pest cooldown will be reduced by like 2.5 minutes. At least from my experiments, I've done a lot of testing to make sure that I had valid information for this video. And as far as I can tell, this is the source of me being able to spawn pests within 3 minutes of spawning a pest before that. So I've had my pest cooldown go as low as like 2.5 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that's because of this perk right here. So this is one of the most important things you can do whenever you're doing pest farming. Make sure to have a spray down on whatever plot you're farming on. Now, of course, it is cheaper to do a mega farm plot or just like have a plot that's stacked up a bunch with a ton of different rows so that you don't have to spray like 5 different rows like I do. For me, I just like to spray all 5 rows here because I don't want to have to go back and build an entire another farm for this. And also I do make less turns with this farm design, so having longer rows just means less downtime in between. But generally you should probably do a mega farm and just spray a single plot if you can, especially if you're on Iron Man, because I know it's hard to get some of these sprays sometimes. But there is one last way that you can get bonus pest chance, which is kind of crazy. If you're filthy rich, this may be a valid option for you, but this option literally costs over 1 billion coins for 1 item, and that would be a Chimera 5 day axe. You can use a regular day axe, and you can see that my day axe has 32 bonus pest chance because of its perk. It gets the stats of my slug pet added onto it. So if I were to break crops with a day axe, I would get 32 bonus pest chance. But if you get Chimera 5 on it as well, then you can increase that by even more. And the best part of that is that bonus pest chance doesn't only apply to the slug pet. It applies to any pet that you have your brown bandana on, because it's not getting this 40 bonus pest chance from the slug pet perk, it's getting it from the perk from the brown bandana. So you could do this strategy in theory with a mushroom cow having a brown bandana on it, or any other pet that you wanted to do it with. But again, that strategy is for the filthy rich, which is not me, so I can't showcase it. But a lot of times I don't even think it's worth doing anyways. Now the strategy here is basically you want to get a decent amount of bonus pest chance. The goal would be 300 bonus pest chance, because every bonus pest chance means you spawn an extra pest whenever you do spawn pests. And with the pest vest and a spray down on the plots that you're farming on, you can get a pest spawn cooldown of less than 3 minutes. And if you have 300 bonus pest chance, that guarantees that you spawn 4 pests on the plot. They did recently change the way that farming fortune deduction works depending on how many pests you have on your garden. So if you have 300 bonus pest chance, you won't have to worry about that deduction until you have like 6 or 7 pests. But the main reason you want at least 300 bonus pest chance, because that will guarantee that you spawn 4 pests at one time, and the maximum amount of pests you can have on your garden at one time is 8. So if you have 300 bonus pest chance, you farm until you've spawned pests 2 times, and you'll guaranteed have all 8 that you need to max out the amount of pests on your garden at one time, and then you can go kill all 8 at once and then start farming again. So ideally you would be able to hit 300 bonus pest chance while also having a decent amount of farming fortune. That way you can still be making decent money from the base farming part of the game, as well as more money from the drops from the pests. This is kind of that in-between method that I was talking about, because a lot of people will sacrifice their farming fortune to have more bonus pest chance while they're farming. So they'll do an armor swapping method where they use their biohazard gear to farm, and then whenever they've spawned in all the pests that they want, they'll swap back over to their fermento armor, which has all the extra farming fortune, which gives you better drops from the pests. But the way I'm trying to show is you keep as much Fermento armor on as you can without having to do too much armor swapping, so that way you still get a bunch of farming fortune while you're actually doing the farming, so you're making guaranteed money. And then when you kill pests, you don't have to worry too much about the RNG because you have that base money from actually farming. So for me, I've averaged about 20 to 25 million coins per hour from grinding and getting drops from pests. And that's just the base part of just drops from pets and farming, not including drops from visitors or from the mouse traps or anything like that. So if you add all that on there, you could be making even more money. I've just been straight up grinding in Fermento and not doing any equipment swaps or armor swaps at all. You can see if I wear the full Fermento right now, I have 1352 farming fortune and 176 bonus pest chance. Whereas if I swap out the biohazard helmet for the Fermento helmet, I now have 1273 farming fortune and 189 bonus pest chance. Now if I were to spray a compost on the plot here, that increases our pest chance by 50, so we're now at 239. And then I could keep going and doing some more armor swaps, and now up to 269. If I got full Pesterminator on this whole set, like Pesterminator 6, that would get us 9 more bonus pest chance, so we'd be up to 278. And then I could just get the squeaky reforge on a couple of these armor pieces and then start drinking that potion that gives 20 bonus pest chance and use that. But you can see my farming fortune has dropped so much. We're down to 1226 versus my full Fermento setup, which has 1452. It did drop 40 in bonus pest chance, but I don't think 200 farming fortune is worth 400 bonus pest chance. From my experience, I've gained more money just from grinding in full Fermento than doing all the downtime of armor swapping and all of this stuff. So I think running full Fermento and just trying to get as much bonus pest chance as you can without doing the biohazard armor swap is generally going to be better. Now this brings us to the question of what kind of pests should you be grinding for. At the moment, if you're on Iron Man, the best pet is Slug Pest, mainly because they did buff the NPC sell price of the pets to George. If you drop a legendary, that sells for 5 mil now, which is pretty solid. Plus the mushroom drop rates are pretty clean as well. But if you're on a main profile, Beetle is by far the best. If you have 1200 or more farming fortune, whenever you kill a beetle, you have a 10% chance of dropping a Pesterminator book, which goes for about 1 million coins right now. So with my rates, if you're using a dung compost, that's the one that gives more beetle drops, and also have the vinyl on your vacuum that makes you more likely to spawn that in as well. I've been getting about 40 total beetles per hour on average at least, but that means a base of about 4 average Pesterminators per hour, so 4 million bonus coins just from beetles. And that's just the RNG. The base drops of pretty much every single pest is 80,000 coins, at least for my farming fortune. Again, depending on your farming fortune, that one's going to be a bit different, and all of these drops are going to be a bit different. So the goal should be about 1200 farming fortune and as much pest chance as you can get. But of course, like every other money making method, the more you invest, the more you'll make. Now, we can also ask the question of what crop should I be farming for this? Realistically, I don't think it matters too much. I've heard some people saying you can still get pretty solid rates from sugarcane, like more pest spawns from sugarcane. But again, I was getting like 3-minute pest spawns using Pest Vest, a spray, and farming melons as well as cocoa beans at some points, so I don't think it really matters too much what you farm. Melons does make the most money from base farming, so melons is a good option in my opinion. That's what I've been doing, but it's totally up to you. Now, as far as what to kill with, you're going to want to use a hedgehog pet. The hedgehog pet is the new pet that lets you deal double damage to pests, as well as gives 100 bonus farming fortune on pests and extra farming fortune, which is tripled at night. So if you want to have these nocturnal perks permanently, so it's permanently nighttime on your island like it is on mine, you're going to need to get a day saver. So you can craft this guy and put it on your garden, and then if you go over to your desk, it'll let you control what time of day it is. So you can just set it to nighttime. And as long as it's night, the hedgehog will have the most fortune in the game for killing pests. So putting a green bandana on it is the best pet item to put on it as well, because that gives more farming fortune, so you get even better drops. And also, the recent update did make it so the BD reforge is actually valid. It gives 100 extra farming fortune compared to the clipped wings reforge, which only gave 9. And you don't need the double damage dealt by vacuums because that perk is now from the hedgehog pet. So as long as you're using a hedgehog pet, you'll be able to get this extra 100 farming fortune and still be able to one-shot the pests. Also, they did add some gemstone slots to the vacuum, so make sure that you've got those gems filled out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least have finds in there. But I think that's everything for today's video, so if you guys ended up enjoying, please make sure to drop a like if you haven't already. We are on our way to 19k subs as well, so make sure to smash the sub button. Also, if I left out anything major, please make sure to leave a comment. Please be nice. I try to catch everything that I can, but I'm just one man. So if there is anything major that I left out, it should be in the pinned comment or in the description of the video. But as far as I know, that's everything. So thank you so much for watching to the end. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have an amazing rest of your day, and God bless.